Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, should I say, because it's past 12 o'clock. I'm Sandra Arevalo, and I'm the Director of Community Health and Wellness at Montefiore Nyack Hospital. Today, we're going to be talking about energy efficiency and all the efforts that are being done here in Rockland County, not just to help us save energy, but also to help us preserve our environment and make Mother Nature happy. So to talk about that, today with us is Frankie, I don't know how to say the last name.
Sure, it's pronounced Leedy.
Leedy. Okay, thank you so much. So Frankie Leedy, and he is with Cornell. And well, they are going to be talking to us a little bit more about what they do. And go ahead, tell us, Frankie, what is it that you do? Tell us a little bit about your organization.
Sure. Thank you, Sandra. Very happy to be here, and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. My name is Frankie. I am the Rockland County Community Energy Advisor with the Mid-Hudson Clean Energy Hub. Just to provide a little bit of context about the hub, we are one of the 6 or 7 clean energy hubs in New York State. And for the Mid-Hudson region, we're a group of 3 nonprofits headed by Cornell Cooperative Extension and including Sustainable Westchester and New Yorkers for Clean Power.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate the time that you put into this presentation and being with us today and for all your support. And we're eager to hear about this energy efficiency program that you've been talking about in our community. So I invite you to upload your presentation.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. Okay. There. Okay, this is screen slideshow from the beginning. Okay, is the slideshow visible to everybody?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Okay.
Very good.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Hopefully that black bar isn't in anybody's way. But again, in case anybody new has just hopped on, welcome. Thank you for coming today. My name is Frankie. I am the Community Energy Advisor for Rockland County with the Mid-Hudson Clean Energy Hub. And let's see, go to next slide. There we go. This is just my contact info. I am based out of the Cornell Cooperative Extension Rockland County office, which is up in Stony Point, New York. And here is my email and my phone number, and I will put my contact information in the chat at the end of the presentation for anybody who would like to have it. I know I just briefly went over this in the introduction, but just to give a brief overview, the Mid-Hudson Clean Energy Hub is one of the 6 or 7 New York State clean energy hubs. We are headed by Cornell Cooperative Extension, Dutchess County, and the other organizations that are a part are the other Cornell Cooperative Associations throughout the Mid-Hudson region, including Rockland County, as well as Sustainable Westchester for providing services in Westchester County, and New Yorkers for Clean Power, who primarily does workforce development work. Our mission is to provide free of charge advising and public education on all things energy efficiency, help connect people to and guide them through state-funded energy efficiency programs, and connect interested individuals, especially young people, to clean energy workforce opportunities. Next slide. Today, I will be presenting about a topic that is becoming more well-known to the general public, which is energy efficiency. And I will be sharing in this presentation information about the residential energy efficiency programs that may be of interest and that are available or, open to residents. To first frame this topic, we need to understand what energy efficiency is. Energy efficiency, as defined by the U.S. Department of Energy, is, quote, the use of less energy to perform the same task or produce the same result, end quote, which is very vague and it doesn't really provide any context as to what energy efficiency looks like in a real life context. So in order to try to illustrate that context, what I'm going to do is compare energy efficiency to something that is often confused with, which is energy conservation. Energy conservation is something that we all practice in our daily lives to one extent or another. Some common examples would be turning the lights off when you leave a room, or you're leaving your house for an extended period of time and you go on vacation. So you plug in your lamps to those little timer things to turn them on and off when needed, or unplugging an appliance or an electronic when it's no longer in use. So the difference between the two, between efficiency and conservation, is with conservation, we are trying to manage the level of energy usage manually. We have to turn the thing on or turn it off, plug it in or unplug it. Versus with efficiency, we can run whatever it is that we're trying to use as needed. We can have the lights on for however long we're going to be in the room. We can run that appliance or electronic or that HVAC system for however long it's needed. But the mechanisms for having that thing run while using a lower amount of energy are already built in. So it's not something that we have to do manually or in terms of usage that we have to be, very overtly mindful of. Now, in the context of a residence, because that's the primary focus of a lot of these programs, an energy efficient home is one that can still maintain an adequate level of heating and cooling, as well as properly power appliances and electronics, but all through using a lower amount of energy. Now, one might think that the way that this would be able to be achieved is that we had to install all these little gadgets to meticulously micromanage our energy use, or we have to go really big and do something like install a solar panel system, which, for the record, I am not against anybody installing solar whatsoever. But in the case of efficiency, we're not actually going to have to do really either of those things. We're going to look at three main areas of the home. The first is insulation, and the things that we're going to look at there are, does the insulation need to be installed? Because a lot of older homes in the Mid-Hudson region, including those in Rockland, actually don't have or have a lack of insulation. Or if there is insulation there, doesn't need to be replaced because it is either too old or has some issues with signs of damage. Or if it's okay, can we add on to what is already there? The second area we're going to look at is air leaks, which is just a fancy term for drafts. The main thing there, or the main question there is, are those drafts sealed? And the third area that we will look at in terms of residential energy efficiency is the presence of or installing higher efficiency HVAC systems, so your heating and cooling systems, and or appliances and electronics. Now I'm going to move into an important question that I'm sure somebody is already thinking of, which is, why is energy efficiency important? Energy efficiency is important for a variety of reasons, but for today's presentation, I'm going to focus on two main areas. First of which is savings on utility bills, and the second is benefits for individual and community health. When it comes to energy efficiency and saving on your utility bills, there's an analogy that I like to use to try to illustrate the importance of making sure that our building envelope, so the outside parts of our homes, are properly insulated and have drafts sealed properly. Think of your home as a plastic bucket, and heating and cooling is this expensive liquid drink in a fancy glass bottle. The goal here is that when we pour the liquid drink into the bucket, we want the liquid to stay inside and preferably have that level of liquid inside stay stable. The problem is the bucket has cracks in it. So what happens when we pour in the liquid into the bucket is that that liquid is going to start to seep out, and that level of liquid is going to go down. The only way that we can maintain a stable level of liquid is to pour more into the bucket. And when that bottle is empty, well, we got to go out and buy another bottle and, rinse and repeat the cycle. But if we had sealed the cracks in the bucket first and then poured the liquid in, we would have had to only do it one time. This is exactly what happens when a home doesn't have the level of insulation and draft sealing needed to keep heated air or cooled air inside. The conditioned air escapes out of the house through those drafts or through the parts of the building envelope that lack insulation, which for us in these living spaces, so inside the home, looks like we have to turn up the thermostat in the colder temperatures to try to keep the house warm, or vice versa with the AC during the hotter times of the year. Or we have to run the heating or cooling system for longer periods of time or turn it on more frequently. Either one of those three things is going to require us to use more energy than absolutely necessary. And the more energy we use, the higher our utility bills end up being. And that's excluding the effects of inflation and rate hikes. But when we deal with these issues of lack of insulation, drafts, and as a third step, the efficiency of your HVAC systems, appliances, and electronics, that's when we can start to get our overall level of energy usage down. And that's when we actually start to save money. Now, what I've done here is I provided a cross-section of a sample Orange and Rockland bill, because that's our utility company. And what I've outlined here are, on the left, this is where we see the charges for electricity, which is the $65 charge here, gas, if that was included on here. Actually, that's 190 here. And then here's where we start to see the total amounts. But where we can start to see differences in energy usage, granted that there is a general seasonal curve because, we do have hot seasons, we do have cold seasons, is that these bars on the right where we see electric usage and then gas usage below that is when we deal with those efficiency issues, those bars, because we're measuring the amount of energy usage here, those will become smaller and smaller over time. And this is again showing where we would start to see those differences, meaning the level of money that we're being charged go down on a Orange and Rockland sample gas utility bill. Now, this may come as surprising to some of you. I know it was to me when I first started in this line of work, but it turns out that energy inefficiency, so the lack of energy efficiency, is connected to various health and safety issues in the home. Some common examples that we often see, at least in our area, are an accumulation of too much moisture, which leads to mold growth, mildew growth, and an overall higher concentration of indoor air pollution levels. There are various causes as to what, would lead these issues to arise, and those include, let's see, differences in temperature between the home, between different parts of the home, which is linked to going back to lack of insulation or compromised insulation and drafts, as well as improper ventilation between rooms or improper ventilation that's related to the HVAC system. Now, health issues in the home related to a lack of energy efficiency can affect anyone of any age, but the demographics that tend to be the most impacted by these sorts of things are young children, immunocompromised individuals, and senior citizens. And here is a graph that illustrates, here are the energy efficiency measures that can be upgraded and how those would address the issues in the home, such as, temperature issues, moisture, mold, particulates, and what specific health issues those in tandem help address. Again, here's another nicely formatted graph that shows, similar information. All right. Now that I've gone through what energy efficiency is and why it's important, I'm going to move into what programs are available to help residents achieve energy efficiency in their homes. Now, the first thing I want to know, because I'm sure you're thinking, okay, I would like to do this, but how much is this going to cost me? Is that you've actually already paid into these programs for probably a couple of years, if not more. The programs that I'm going to go through in the next couple of slides are funded by what's called a systems benefit charge. This is a mandated charge on New York electricity utility bills. And this specific charge funds the energy efficiency programs that are available through New York State for residents, both homeowners and renters, as well as nonprofits and small businesses. Next slide. And here, I'm not sure if the black bar is blocking this, but here down at the bottom, this green box, this is where you would see the charge listed on your utility bill. For addressing energy efficiency in the home from a structural standpoint, so again, going back to insulation, sealing of drafts, and things along that line, there is the NYSERDA Empower Plus program. This program is open to low and moderate income homeowners as well as renters, as long as those rental properties are between 2 to 4 units. And this program starts off with a home energy assessment or a home energy audit to identify areas that are contributing to energy inefficiency. From there, a work scope is proposed by the contractor to address these issues via various measures, again, like sealing of drafts, insulation, and it includes a couple of other things like health and safety measures, higher efficiency lighting. This is kind of case dependent, but I do see this come up a lot, which is replacement of old and inefficient refrigerators and freezers, and kind of to close out things once this work is done in the home. Signing the resident up for community solar, which has a electric bill credit that on average ranges between $5 to $15. One thing I will note about the Power Plus program is that eligibility is dependent on household size and gross annual income, or being a recipient of various assistance programs like SNAP, HEAP, TANF, public assistance, things along that line of programs. Now, the nice thing about the Empower Plus program is that we are now having incorporation of funding from the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a federal law signed in about 2021, 2022, that is providing additional funding for insulation, sealing of drafts, and ventilation repairs. And that specific incentive or additional incentive at this time is $1,600. Another thing I want to note is that also through the Inflation Reduction Act is that there is funding available for the installation of heat pump systems. Just to give a brief overview, if you've never heard of what a heat pump is before, is that it is a HVAC system that is able to heat and cool, and it's kind of structured to run like a reverse refrigerator. Now, at this time, NYSERDA is only doing installations of heat pump systems and their hot water tank cousin, which is a heat pump hot water heater for homeowners or renters whose homes are powered by fuel oil, propane, or electric resistance heat, which unfortunately at this time excludes most of us here in Rockland, because I know that quite a large number of us are natural gas customers, but expansions in eligibility are set to take place at some point. We're still waiting to receive further notice about that and from in NYSERDA. Now, the next program is, let's say, you're interested in making your home more energy efficient, but you're more interested in your heating or cooling system because let's say your AC is having issues functioning and there's a heat wave coming, or your boiler is kind of on the fritz. There is another nice sort of program for that, which is called the New York State Clean Heat Program. Now, this is open to all residents regardless of household size, household income. It's open to homeowners and renters. And the way that this program works is that it connects residents to vetted contractors for the installment of heat pumps, or, if you have to install a more traditional HVAC system, that can also be done as well. I will say that specifically for heat pump installments, by working with a contractor that participates in this program, you can have access to associated rebates, financing, and if you have enough taxable income or high enough tax liability, federal tax credits to help deduct the overall cost of the heat pump system. Okay, so that's it for the programs. Again, here is my contact information, phone number and email. I will put this in the chat. And one other thing that I wanted to just share before I finish up for today is that if any of the information that I provided during the presentation sparks your interest, or you know of somebody, let's say somebody in your family, a friend, neighbor, community member, acquaintance, etc., is interested in energy efficiency, any one of these areas of energy efficiency, but may not necessarily know what to start with. The Clean Energy Hub is hosting a free online event for Climate Solutions Week where people can drop in and talk to any one of the energy advisors on our team, myself included. And that is taking place on Tuesday, September 24th from 7 to 8:30. I will put the registration link in the chat as well. So if you're interested in coming by, or you know someone who would be interested, please feel free to send them this flyer and send them the registration link. Would be more than happy to speak with them. Okay, that's it for me.
Thank you so
Sure.
much, Frankie. That's wonderful. And I don't know if you're aware, but your camera might be off at the moment.
Yeah, I turned it back on. I like to turn it off during the presentation as to not, detract
Oh,
from
that's
the
very
focus.
good. Very smart of you. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your presentation. Definitely something to look into. And I see it says, thank you. Great presentation, Frankie. I
Thank
have
you.
a follow-up question for you.
Sure.
These programs, are they for house owners only, or if you're renting, can you be eligible too?
Sure. So the programs that I specifically mentioned, or I should say the one that I put in the slides, which is Empower Plus, that one is open to homeowners and people who rent, who live in rental properties that are between 2 to 4 units. I'm aware that in Rockland, we do have rental properties that are, greater than 4 units, and there are programs that deal with those larger rental properties. And it's just a matter of kind of what areas are we looking to address here, because there's a couple of different programs. It would just be a matter of, okay, let's see what the situation is, what are the specs of the property, and then you can make, or I should say, I can make a referral to that appropriate program.
So, for example, I imagine that if you're renting a place, but you're also paying the bills for the place, which is usually the case, maybe you can talk to the homeowners, let them know about these programs to see if they are, eligible, and maybe that way, you're going to help yourself by helping your landlord, I guess.
Yeah, for rental properties, given that we're talking about multiple people in, let's say, if we're talking a property that's under 4 units, or even larger properties, we're talking about a lot of people using a lot of energy under one roof. So the lower that we can get the energy usage, we have not just the benefits of making things more comfortable. But in terms of bills, because we have been seeing, rate hikes for all utility companies over the past couple of years, it makes things, over the long haul a lot more affordable for people because, with all the things that have happened over the past couple of years, people economically, it's a struggle. And if we can try to make things more affordable,
Yeah.
let's try to do that for people, or at least that's how I see it.
Yeah. We have a couple of questions here. Do I qualify if I rent my one family house? What if my property owner is not interested?
Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to assume that, let's say this is a low income or a moderate income household, and maybe we were talking about Empower Plus. Um, when it comes to the measures that can be installed, if the property owner is not interested, I will say it does put a limitation on the extent of work that can be done, because for authorization purposes, for rental properties, the landlord does need to sign off on a authorization form that allows them to, let's say, do installation work, do draft ceiling work, because you are, doing some level of structural change to the property, and NYSERDA has to be authorized to come onto the property and do that sort of work. But in the event that the home, or say the property owner, isn't interested, all of we call them direct install measures. So we're talking about like minor level weatherization measures. So door sweeps, things kind of along that line. They can come in and do that into the rental property without the property owner or the landlord's permission. Um, but it's sort of a case by case thing. And if you wanted to talk more about that, I'd be more than happy to.
Are the IRA rebates administered by New York State now in place for heat pump hot water heaters or heat pump dryers or other IRA incentives?
This is a great question because I was at a NYSERDA conference in Albany last week, and they provided some new information about that. So to answer the question for the heat pumps specifically, the answer is yes. The way to access the IRA funding, um, at least for Rocklanders, given the current limitation or exclusion of natural gas customers, would be through the New York State Clean Heat program. Or if for some reason, you live in the surrounding areas and your home is powered by fuel oil, propane, so you're like getting those deliveries, just to be specific, or you have electric resistance baseboard heat. Depending on your household income, you might be able to get that heat pump installed through Empower Plus. Now, regarding the heat pump dryers, I had this saved. So let me pull this up because there was a specific date that they had given me. Okay. So for the heat pump dryers, it's looking like, or I should say, the estimate that they gave us was sometime between now and, let's say, November or December. And the way that they are planning to structure that is you can get the rebate when you purchase the dryer from a participating retail location, and they will, once they launch this, they'll provide us a list of those participating retail locations. And in terms of installation, there might be a requirement to have it installed by a participating contractor. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be the case for the dryers, but I know that for the appliance rebates that are set to be available sometime early next year, that the contractor installation requirement in order to get that rebate will be definitely a part of that program launch.
Mhm. Thank you for that. How will the rebates work? Will it be a point of sale or mail a rebate form to NYSERDA?
Um, okay, for point of sale rebates, that would be the appliances, so heat pump, dryers, heat pump. I think there was washers actually, as well as the higher efficiency appliances like induction stoves, and induction cooktops. So that will be the rebate. You would get that when you purchase the appliance at the participating retail location. For the other rebates, so let's say that's for the installation work that's done through Empower Plus, or for the heat pumps, which can be installed through New York State Clean Heat. Nice, let's say for, actually, let me backtrack. For NYSERDA and Empower, that incentive, that is negotiated between the contractor and NYSERDA. So that is not something that the resident has to worry about. When it comes to the heat pumps, again, that negotiation of the rebate is between the contractor and, in this case, the utility company. So the utility company, when it comes to heat pumps, pays the rebate directly to the contractor.
And one more question. I live in a two-family home in an old building and winters are felt. Do you know similar programs in the Bronx?
There is a clean energy hub for the Brooklyn and the Bronx, just like the Mid-Hudson. So I would imagine that the answer is a definite yes. I'm not sure what size the property is, but again, we would be talking about perhaps Empower Plus, because the Empower Plus program is not just for the Mid-Hudson, it's available for all New York State residents. It runs all throughout the state. Or we would be talking about one of the multifamily energy efficiency programs, which again, open for everybody in the state, not just the Mid-Hudson. So definitely including the Bronx. But in terms of like nitty-gritty specifics, I would not know that, but not sure how to pronounce the name here, but I could forward the information for the Brooklyn Bronx Hub if you would like.
Mhm. Could we assume that it has to be pretty similar to what we're doing in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, it would definitely be pretty similar. When I say nitty-gritty, I'm talking about like who are the contractors that provide those services to residents in the Bronx area. Kind of the more logistical things like on the ground with contractors, etc. Not necessarily a question of does this program exist in my area? Because it does.
Mhm. Now, let me ask you a question about those contractors. Like, for
Sure.
example, if I live in New Jersey, close to Rockland or close to New York,
Mhm.
and if I hire a contractor from New York, even though my zip code is in Jersey, how does that work?
Well, it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't work. So the programs that are provided by NYSERDA are for New York State residents and New York State residential or nonprofit organization, small business addresses only. But what I will say is, and I admit I don't know a whole lot about this, but I do know that in New Jersey, they do have a very similar clean energy hub program that is run out of Rutgers University. So if you wanted to have potentially this sort of work done in New Jersey, the people at Rutgers would be the best to ask.
Okay, good to know. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. We ran out of questions today, but this was very informative. I'm very sure that a lot of people are going to be referring to this recording because it's a lot of good information here. Obviously, we all love to save a penny here and there,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
if we're saving the environment while we're doing that, even better. So
Yeah,
thank you so much
absolutely.
for this information and for
Thank
all the
you.
work that you do to make us aware of this. It's really amazing.
You're very welcome. And thank you so much for having me. What I'm just doing right now is putting my contact information in the chat. So if
Please.
anybody would like to email or call, please feel free to do so. And I'm also going to put the registration link for the Talk to an Advisor event, which is happening on next Tuesday at 7 p.m. So let me just.
So if you have a flyer for that, I'll be
Yes, I
happy
do.
to actually, send the flyer to in our list as well. I
Wonderful.
think that people will
Yes, of
appreciate that.
course. Yeah. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Yes, I will definitely send that over.
Yeah,
And
please.
there you go.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I hope to see
Thank
you
you.
soon again.
Yeah,
Keep
absolutely.
up the good work.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of our attendees for joining us today. As soon as the link is available in YouTube, I'll be sending an email with the link. I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation and that you make it available to other people as well. And you tell all your neighbors and friends and everybody about this beautiful program. Next week, we're going to be talking about cancer and sleep disorders. So please join us if you know anyone that hasn't been sleeping very well because of an unfortunately cancer diagnosis. Please come. We're going to give you tips on how to deal with that. So thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you next week.